Welcome to another edition of, what shall we call it, Mark Oaten? Öpik and Oaten at it again?
Yeah, I mean, we are at it again. We're always at it again, but at it again will do, yeah.
Each other's throats. One of my friends said, oh, I saw that guy who hates you. And I didn't know what she meant, but she meant you and me. We don't hate each other. Yeah, I know. We don't hate each other. We're just honest. And I just disagree with most of what you believe. But you're still my friend.
Exactly. I mean, looking at friends can have a good argument and still disagree and still be friends at the end of the day. For goodness sake, I can't. I'm terrified. If anybody's watching, I love Lembit to bits. I mean, he's completely bonkers. He drives me crazy. His views are completely out of the realm of anything which I believe in. That said, I love him.
That's 3 libels already. Okay, well, anyway, in today's episode of A Very Liberal Life, we're still working out what we're going to call it in the long term. I want to talk about electric vehicles and the continuing attempt to move us out of our beloved petrol and diesel cars for what I think is a nonsense reason. What about you? What do you want to talk about?
Are you petrol head, honestly, Lembit? I want to talk about somebody else who's at it again, and that's Jeremy.
Yeah, hang on, do you have an electric car?
I do not have an electric car.
Well,
I'm a reluctant petrol head. Let's put it that way. I want to talk about Jeremy Corbyn. He's back again in the headlines. Is this serious? Actually, could he make the kind of breakthrough on the left that we've seen with reform on the right? And we can't have an episode without talking about reform. We do it every single week. They're on the march. And are there more people waiting to defect to reform? Lembit, are there?
Well, that's very pointed. I was going to throw in reform because you wanted to talk about, Jeremy Corbyn. Well, let's start, though, with electric vehicles, especially since you haven't got one and I have no intention of having one. The latest story here is that our great government is trying to put tons of money into getting us to buy electric vehicles. Why? Why do you think they want to do that, Mark? What's the point of this?
Well, look, the market has really been up and down. There was this whole sense in which people wanted to buy electric cars. Then they realized that actually the cost was quite high. Then they realized there was nowhere to charge them. So the government have got 2 issues to fix. The first issue is, how do we actually make them affordable for people? And the second is this whole question of, what do you do if particularly you're in a big urban community? How on earth are you going to have enough points for people to charge their cars overnight? Now, the government have recognized the only way to solve both of those problems is money. Throw money at the consumers so they can afford to buy the cars with grants, and throw money at the local councils so they can actually make more of these charging points. I think it's a good idea. We've got to get away from petrol. It's clear that the electric car industry needs a bit of a boost. So from my perspective, this is good government. I don't normally like government interfering in these kind of things, but here is an example of where the government needs to set up the infrastructure and give a little bit of a carrot to consumers.
I just totally disagree with you. First of all, I'll tell you why. Because you, with your normal sneaky, mealy-mouthed and kind of Labour uni-party way, are implying that we need to cut carbon dioxide. It's nonsense. The fundamental reason we're being forced into these death traps when they catch fire is because apparently we're meant to shut down on carbon dioxide, even though 95% of the carbon dioxide is natural. So the fundamental reason for it is wrong. And then the second thing, even if it was true, Mark, electric vehicles use more resources, more precious metals than normal cars ever do. What's the point of this agenda? Why? Why?
Okay, because we disagree fundamentally on the science around the use of energy. Okay, you and I will never agree on that. I tend to buy into 99% of what scientists say. You tend to buy into what 1% of obscure climate deniers believe. But that's your prerogative to be in that 1%. I'm with the majority on this. The second reason is actually, even if you didn't look at it from a perspective of what it does to the environment, there is the whole question of oil security. Petrol is something which is a commodity which we've seen can be very vulnerable to different prices. It can have a huge impact when it goes up on our inflation rate. So actually there's an economic argument to moving towards a more stable form of running our transport system and moving away from petrol.
That's just rubbish.
Which bit's rubbish?
It's rubbish. Yeah, because you think that just by insulting me, you can ignore all of the real science, which says that if carbon dioxide was a problem, then we have to stop nature producing it. Because one atom in every 20, that's maybe one atom in 33 that's emitted every year is actually from human beings. It's complete tosh.
How is it that you can actually believe that you are in the right and the vast majority of every single country, every single scientist is in the wrong? What planet are you on? And a planet that is burning away, frankly, you're in denial, Lembit, on this issue.
I'm on the planet that pretty much killed Galileo, and you would have killed Galileo for having the audacity to say that the Earth goes around the sun. No one expects the Spanish Inquisition, and that's what I'm getting here. It's not true. Science doesn't say that there's a climate crisis. I don't want to absorb the whole 25 minutes talking about that.
Please not.
On another time. But all right, I'm going to resist explaining why you're completely wrong about that.
Hold back. Forget all of that. What do you think about the idea of giving consumers an incentive to buy the cars? Does that offend you from a market forces perspective, or do you recognize sometimes to make things happen, you need to give a bit of a financial incentive?
Yeah, you do, but only for the right thing. So answering that question without needling you, if you want something done as a government, you probably have to throw money at it. And I agree. I suppose you can make something legal or illegal, but that's really dodgy. So I suppose if you want something done, that's a way of doing it. But there's a tremendous contradiction in this. I mean, basically, previously, in a way that I find completely incomprehensible, the Labour Party was criticising the Conservatives for trying to invest in places up and down motorways and so on so that you could recharge your car if you made a long journey. I'm not sure if the team can find a slide on that. They might have something. We'll see if something comes up on that. But the government, the previous government, was going to put tons of money into this around the motorways and so forth. Yeah, here it is. Thanks. Yeah, here it is. Right. £400 million we set aside for on-street charging points instead of on motorways. And that was because I think the previous government, the Tories, going to put something like £900 million into making it possible to have an electric vehicle journey from here to Edinburgh instead of having to stop and give up. And then they say, oh, well, we're into the green thing, but they're now going to bury the cables in streets. Have they ever been to Brixton or central Birmingham? I mean, the people in the centre of the cities, how are they going to possibly charge thousands of cars? It's even if you were right, even if we should go for electric vehicles, this is the politics of the madhouse. It can't be done.
Look, on this, I do agree with you in that I do see electric cars as being, in a sense, a very middle class kind of detached house where people have got their own charging points and, you know, they can happily charge their car and get enough power to be able to make it to Waitrose the next morning. I do see there's that danger. If you're living in a block of flats, how on earth are you going to have hundreds of cables coming around into your car? The shared car points don't seem to work. There's going to be arguments and fights over who can get that in. So to some extent, we're at the start of an issue here. And the biggest single problem is going to be the fact that these batteries don't last long enough and you need to have to charge them. And the charging is complex. It really is. Technology needs to move faster. We need to have a battery life which is much longer. And we need to have a system of charging which isn't dependent on cables and these big bulky things that we have so you could stick your plug in. Technology will develop. But at the moment...
Sorry.
No, I was going to say, at the moment, we have to embrace the change. And we know that whenever a change happens, it's clunky and it's slow and it takes time to get started. This, when it was first invented, was a huge, great thing like that. And it's come down to something which everybody has, and it's practical and easy. We need electric cars to move in the same direction that phones did.
Okay, I understand what you're saying in terms of charging. We need some different way than bulky cables. What you mean is magic. They'll just be charged by magic. Some council operative with a wand will go abracadabra, and lo and behold, all those cars in the street will be recharged.
Well,
Dream on, man. Dream on.
I tell you what, I invest in shares, and this would be a share that I would invest in for the future. The long-term prospects are going to be, and in fact, the government have stated this claim. They don't want to have diesel, petrol in the next decade. So I believe if we were having this conversation and it was Oaten Öpik doing a podcast about
you see, that's Freudian, that's very oil-based.
Yeah, exactly. If it was us and we're coming from our old people's home in however many years' time, everybody will have electric cars. This will be a non-conversation. So Lembit, just get with the project now. Embrace it.
Old people's, that's 5 years, by the way, but let's not dwell on that. I'll tell you one other reason. Now we've got to talk about things. Here's another reason why I wouldn't put my kids into an electric vehicle. Now, the problem, tiny little problem is they look very nice, beautiful things, but suddenly there's a little bit of a problem. Yeah, they catch fire. And what kills you isn't actually always the accident. It's the fact that you just get overcome by the horrendously toxic cyanide. I think the cyanide-based fumes, some terrible things like that. And then you get incinerated. And there are picture after picture, video after video. And by the way, if you put water on them, then it's fuel for the fire, because it's not a thermal fire. It's a chemical fire. Look at the numbers. I mean, it's horrendous. You've got your car in your posh garage, and sure, you've got a really posh garage, and it decides to catch fire spontaneously. And that's good night, Vienna. Good night, Mark Oaten. And I don't want that. I love you too, man. I don't want you to be incinerated in this insanity. And fire marshals like that guy there, Chaz, if you watch the whole video, will tell you this is a horrendous problem. There's no solution. You have to let them burn through. What's your answer to that then, Mark?
My answer is that you've come up with the soundbite of the day, if not the week, which is being incinerated in insanity. I absolutely love it. And on that note, can we move on to something else, Lembit, before you self-implode, rather like one of your electric cars?
I was feeling a bit better, actually, about that. That's a bit like counselling for me. All right, let's move on then. You wanted to talk about Jeremy Corbyn.
Well, I don't want to, but I've got to, because, just when you thought it was safe to go back out canvassing, back out in the streets, look who's back. It's Corbyn again. And what a remarkable character this man is. I mean, he is the comeback kid. People have written him off so many times. Remember, he got to that incredible point where at Glastonbury, people were chanting out, oh, Jeremy Corbyn. He was ahead in the opinion polls running up to a general election. There was a nanosecond where it looked like he could actually become prime minister. Then it fell away, and now he's back again. Do we have to take it seriously? Yes, I believe we do, because there is clearly a realignment taking place in British politics. It is beginning to take place on the right, and we'll come on to talk about reform vis-a-vis the Conservatives. But if you saw anything out of those rebellions in the Commons over the last couple of months, in this first year of a Labour government, you'll see the tensions on the left and the centre left of British politics. And Corbyn looks like he's going to try and prise those open in the way that we now have Reform and the Conservatives as two parties of the right. Can it be possible that there'll be two parties of the left and the centre left? Can he pull this off? Problem is, he's not necessarily as charismatic as Farage, but there has been a period when he was popular and he was charismatic. Can he recapture that moment again? What do you think?
See, the thing is, right, I don't have your concern about this. My feeling is slightly different. I like the fact that Corbyn's coming right back in again. Why? Because he will do to the Labour Party what Reform did to the Conservatives. He will damage their vote. Already, there's one person who's doing more than anyone before to damage the Labour vote, and that's, as you know, Keir Starmer, with Rachel from Complaints as well. But if he takes, say, 10% of the Labour vote, that puts Reform right in there. We'll talk about Reform in a minute, but just consider the numbers there. The estimate, not my estimate, other people's estimates, is that Corbyn, who is basically really very popular as well still to this time, he could actually snaffle away around 10 percentage points of Labour's vote. Labour would be around the mid-teens then, and Reform, and the new party would be around 10%. Reform would be sailing ahead. Why is that good? Because Labour deserves it. They've absolutely let this country down. Maybe for another time. Can I just play something, if we've got this, if the team can cue it up, the explanation that Jeremy Corbyn and Ms. Sultana put forward for the sake of the public to explain. I think it's Jeremy Corbyn mainly speaking here. Let me just play this. Can we just play the piece, please?
Prime Minister who's a human rights lawyer would know better, but I can tell you that is categorically untrue. Parliament has been misled by David Lammy, by Keir Starmer, who have told us that the weapons that are going to Israel are for defensive purposes.
Speaker, if you can't work, you must be supported and protected. The reformed welfare system that we're putting in place will be better for individuals, better for the taxpayer, and better for the economy.
Keir Starmer went there and rather bizarrely said there's lots going on here I'm not able to talk to you about. Well, if he's not able to talk to us about it, then I think it's time that he was in front of a court where he'd be forced to answer those questions. Because
big problems for Starmer. I find that video quite attractive, actually, and congratulations to the team for finding it, because it sums up, I think, the feeling, Mark, the feeling with the disillusioned Labour Party who thought there'd be change, but change for the better.
Look, I think it's really interesting to see what this Labour government is about, because I suspect there's probably around 100, maybe 150 of those Labour MPs who actually fundamentally still consider themselves to be left-wing. They consider themselves to be sponsored and supported by the unions, and they will be in close relations with the unions. And they, as we saw from those rebellious votes, were very hostile the minute that Labour tried to do anything with disability benefits. Those core Labour supporters, they're very protective of them. Then the other part of the Labour Party is probably a more pragmatic one, a Starmer one. And this is bringing back memories of the kind of battles we've seen in the past in the Labour Party, going all the way back to the time when the SDP was formed, frankly. Now, at that point, the SDP said the party's going too left, and it pulled away. What we now seem to have is a breakaway group arguing the Labour Party is going too far to the right, and they want to pull away. The big question I have is this breaking more of the political mold? And ultimately, the case for having proportional representation is becoming so strong because it will allow for a breathing space for these different political parties to operate.
No, I see what you're doing there. I see what you Liberal Democrats are doing now. You just want to wheedle in so we never have a strong government in this country again. We know what we get with the Lib Dems. We got that flaccid nonsense with Nick Clegg.
If you look back at that coalition government between Cameron and Clegg, many people will argue that has been the most stable and strong government that we've had in decades. Honestly, history will look back on that coalition government and argue it was a strong one. It was better than Liz Truss, better than Boris Johnson, certainly better than Rishi Sunak, and certainly better than Keir Starmer. So
yes, it was.
Don't tell me that coalitions lead to weak governments, Lembit.
You know, the only reason it led to strong government was because it was a one-party government, because the Lib Dems are so weak with Joey the Clown Nick Clegg that they didn't interfere with Cameron's agenda. Tuition fees. They stopped some of the more extreme issues. But look, come back to Corbyn. Wait a minute. I will do in a second. Let's just remember the promise that was solemnly made that the Lib Dems would oppose tuition fees, and then they crumbled because of Nick Clegg's useless leadership, the worst leader in the history of the Lib Dems. But I digress. So let's get back to Jeremy Corbyn. I think he's actually onto something big here, and I think that the two of them are pretty strong. And let's remember that Sultana left the Labour Party because she was suspended. So within weeks of becoming the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer had already planted weeds in his own field.
The fragmentation of the Labour Party only a year into government is extraordinary. I mean, to have such a strong working majority, imagine Blair in 97, a year on in 98. He wouldn't have been facing this kind of rebellion. He wouldn't have been facing an alternative left-wing political party being set up. So that Starmer and this government are crumbling so fast is extraordinary. The question is, has Corbyn got the skills and ability needed to be able to set up a new political party? He is a maverick. He likes operating on the edge, and I'm not sure that he will alone have the skills needed. In the same way that Farage needs to have a sort of a ground war, he needs to have a strong structure to his party. Corbyn is also going to need all of that if you're going to make the breakthrough. The question is, who joins next? Yeah, if he gets serious joining next, then it might get legs.
More on that later. I based on that, though, I agree with you. We need to talk about reform, and of course, reform has got a new, rather high-profile defection from the Conservatives.
Britain is broken. We literally live in a country where you cannot walk down the street with a phone in your hand. We have taxes that are so sky high, the brightest and best are leaving our country in droves, while at the same time a benefit system that is bringing the world's poor to our shores with no control. If you literally want to design a system to destroy a country, you would struggle to do better. And I know who broke it, because I was there. For 30 years, I supported the Conservative Party. For 14 years, I was one of their MPs, sitting at that cabinet table twice. And I want to tell you today, my friends, that I have come to a decision. The old parties do not have what it takes to transform our country, to build a Britain we can believe in again. And that's why I've decided to join the Reform Party. It is only Reform and Nigel Farage who can deliver a Britain that we are proud of again. Nigel Farage has always stuck by his principles. Even when it was unpopular, he campaigned for Brexit. We know we can trust him. He doesn't change his views when the political weather changes. And because you know you can trust him, I can trust him too. And that's why I'm going to spend every day campaigning to ensure that Nigel Farage and Reform form the next government of this great United Kingdom.
Ho, 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 ho. We're on our way to Downing Street.
That was the public information broadcast on behalf of the Reform Party. Blimey, Lembit, you gave that a lot of airtime. But it is significant.
It seemed long to you. To quote Jack Nicholson, you can't handle the truth.
Your truth. But significant because this was a person who was the chairman of the Conservative Party. He's a significant player. A very, very articulate and a very, very compelling case that he put across. The question I have is, will there be more like him? And I'll answer my own question. Probably yes. Why? Well, two reasons. First of all, they've been waiting now for a year to see whether Kemi Badenoch is going to make any breakthrough. And in fact, they've seen quite the opposite. Some disastrous performances at Prime Minister's Question Time. So they've given it a bit of time to see, hedge your bets, can the Conservatives come back? And they've concluded, no, it can't. The second reason is they've been looking to see whether the reform bubble would burst, and it hasn't burst. And so for those two reasons, I think, particularly over the summer period, as former Tory MPs and maybe even existing Tory MPs go to Tuscany and they're sipping their Chardonnay by the pool, reading their two for one.
Pretend you hate the middle class. You're the personification of it, Mark.
They will be
personification of the middle class.
They will probably be concluding, do you know what? There's no future for me in the Conservative Party. I'm not going to win my old seat back. I might as well throw my hand in with this lot and give it a chance.
There's one material piece of evidence I'd like to cite. Can we just put the polls up, please? Can we get? Yeah, here it is. Thank you. Look at the figures there. Look at the figures. It's quite something. Reform UK 34%, June 2025. This is Labour 25, Tories 15. Sorry, Lib Dems languishing at 11. And then the joke Green Party somewhere behind there, but not far behind the Lib Dems. Look at those figures. Now, if Corbyn comes in, takes 10% off Labour, even 8%, they'll be in their teens, and Reform will sail in. Remember, the Reform vote there is actually more than the Labour Party actually got to get elected.
Yeah, and that's the extraordinary thing we're in now with this multi-party political system, that you can win a general election with a third of the electorate's votes. One thing we didn't, just quickly jumping back, we didn't mention about Corbyn is there's an assumption that he will be taking those votes potentially from the Labour Party. Actually, for the Lib Dems and the Greens, it could also be bad news for them, because some of that Lib Dem vote will regard itself as being a little bit left-wing, and certainly amongst the Green vote, there'll be a left-wing vote there. So it's not necessarily just going to be taking from Labour. But jumping back to Reform, you're right. And I got to think of a different holiday destination and a different drink, as ex-Tory MPs are, I don't know, going where they are, having a pint of beer, they'll be looking at those opinion polls and they'll be thinking to themselves, I want to get back into Parliament. I really miss it. How do I get back into Parliament? And they'll be really, really tempted, because those figures are tempting.
Yeah, you're not going to get there with Labour, Tory or Lib Dem, really, with those figures. Just look at that, streaking ahead. They're streaking ahead. But I have to say, there's a long time. I have to say, long time till we get to the general election. One thing, I don't think the Lib Dem vote's in danger. Not particularly. I think people who vote Lib Dem will just vote Lib Dem. But the Greens could take a tumble towards Corbyn, I think, because the Greens are just all over the place, really. And I'd imagine it's a fairly febrile vote. Which brings me... Go on, sorry.
I was just going to quickly say, it's interesting that the government are recognising that actually there needs to be a way to manipulate the non-reform vote, the progressive vote, as they would describe it, which is why, interestingly, for the mayoral contests coming up next time round, they've just announced, Angela Rayner's just announced, they're shifting the system to a system of proportional representation for those mayoral contests. Reform won so many of them last time round through first past the post, so Labour are going to change the system next time round. So
it's pathetic, isn't it pathetic? But Angela Rayner, the great political genius that she is, doesn't realise the long-term consequences of what she's doing. I'm not really necessarily against. I'm not keen on mayors, by the way. But the only reason they want to change the system is because Labour knows that they're going down. That's what's happening. They're going down.
As ever. Whenever a party wants to put forward PR in part, it's through self-interest. But hey,
you know what? Where I stand now, I'm totally against it. If that means that Labour and Conservative, the uni party, get in, I have to say we have to save this country. And Labour, Conservative, and the ditchy little Lib Dems will do whatever the big coalition partner want them to do. Aren't really there. I think that Davey is perfectly welcome to carry on going through to Thorpe Park and enjoy amusements. But it wouldn't be a big laugh if he was in government. Having said that, I am going to tempt you now. I'm going to tempt you. Picture this, Mark.
What's he going to do now?
This could be you. No, sorry.
What? In an opinion poll.
No, hang on. This could be you.
Am I the other at 6%?
Wait a minute. You could be in the 34%. Why don't you join? Why don't you join?
Your producers pressed the wrong button, Lembit, clearly.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I didn't want to say. You know what? Why do you have to show up the team? They get paid a pittance for what they do. A pittance.
By you.
Yeah, by me. I know. Well, by us. By me. Me and the team over here. This is what they were meant to do.
Embarrassing photo of me, then I'm relieved that it's not appeared. And next time round, it needs to be an embarrassing photo of you, okay, Lembit?
Oh, they put it right. They put it right. How about that?
Nigel
Farage and Mark Oaten at number 10 in 2029. Yeah.
You so know that picture should be you there, not me. There's absolutely no way I'm going anywhere near that door again or politics again, other than maybe to stroke the Downing Street cat. Fatal.
That sounds wrong. Fatal last words there. You can see no circumstances in which you would go forward. Well, give it some time.
No one can see circumstances like that, Lembit.
Maybe my team poignantly was testing you with the chart. Just one more thing to show you. Can we just do that thing? Yeah. There it is again. Look, 34%. There it is again.
Showing this chart with Reform on 34%. Honestly, blatant publicity.
Thanks very much, Mark. I think we've got a whole lot of new things to talk about coming from today as well. Looking forward, though, just one last quick question, and I'll answer it too. Do you think that, real short one, do you think that Reform can sustain that percentage?
Yes, I think it is doable. There'll be bumpy ways along, as ever there are in politics, but reform ain't going nowhere. It is here to stay. It's the new reality of politics, and people need to respond and shake up to that.
I tend to agree with you, but they've got to get their internal organisation sorted out, because they've done really well. But you know as well as I do, you have to stick it on a bit of paper and put it through the letterbox. Thanks so much for watching. We'll be back again. We'll work out the name of the series in the longer term. But I'm Lembit Öpik.
And I was Mark Oaten.
And we hope to see you soon. And if you like it, please like it on X and tell people about it. Please retweet it. It costs you nothing and it helps us a lot. Very much looking forward to doing another one of these shows very soon with Mark Oaten. See you soon.